There's a project you haven't finished. You know exactly which one. It's been sitting there, almost ready, almost right, for weeks, maybe months. And every time you think about it, the same thought appears. It's not good enough yet. Here's what that thought isn't telling you. It's not protecting the work. It's protecting you. From judgment. From failure. From the moment the thing leaves your hands and becomes real. Perfectionism isn't a standard. It's a hiding place. And this video is about what's actually on the other side of the door you've been refusing to open. Perfectionism is one of the most socially rewarded dysfunctions that exists. Say you're a procrastinator and people lose patience with you. Say you're a perfectionist and people nod with admiration. Oh, you care so much about quality. Oh, you hold yourself to such a high standard. Nobody questions it. Because on the surface, it looks like conscientiousness. It looks like discipline. It looks like someone who takes their work seriously. But watch what perfectionism actually produces over time. The writer with the unfinished manuscript. The entrepreneur whose product has been almost ready for 2 years. The person who's been planning to start the business, the channel, the creative project, since before they can remember. All that care. All that standard holding. And somehow, the thing never ships. That's not a high bar. That's a bar nobody's allowed to reach. Because here's the thing that perfectionism never tells you about itself. It's not interested in the work being good. It's interested in the work never being judged. Finished things can be criticized. Finished things can fail. Finished things exist in the world where other people have opinions about them. Unfinished things are safe. They live in the protected space of potential. The place where something can still theoretically become perfect because it hasn't had the chance to be anything yet. Perfectionism keeps you in that space on purpose. There's a cost to this that almost nobody calculates honestly. Not the emotional cost, though that's real. The practical, concrete, compounding cost of waiting. Every field you can name rewards iteration. Software ships broken and gets patched. Books go to print with typos and get corrected in the next edition. Businesses launch with a flawed model and pivot. Artists release imperfect work and grow from the feedback. The entire architecture of improvement is built on the assumption that you released something first. You cannot iterate on what you haven't shipped. Which means every month spent refining before releasing is a month you didn't get the feedback that would have made the next version actually better. The perfectionism that was supposed to protect the quality of your work is actively preventing the process that creates quality. It's not raising the standard. It's just delaying the education. Pattern interrupt, hard pause, then. And here's the number nobody wants to hear. Research on creative output consistently shows that quantity predicts quality better than intention does. The people who produce the most work, who ship most frequently, who put things out imperfectly and keep going. Those people improve faster, produce more breakthroughs, and build more lasting bodies of work than the people who labor endlessly over single pieces. Not because they care less, because they understand that the work teaches you things the planning never will. The ceramics teacher who divided the class in half, one half graded on the single best pot they could make. One half graded purely on quantity produced. At the end of the semester, all the best pots came from the quantity group. Not because they stopped caring about quality. Because they made so many pots, they got good at making pots. Done, repeatedly, is how mastery actually works. But let's not skip the part that actually matters. Because for most people, perfectionism isn't really about quality. It's about identity. When you say, I'm a perfectionist, what you often mean, underneath the language, is that you can't tolerate the distance between what you made and what you imagined. Between who you are and who you're trying to prove yourself to be. Every piece of work becomes a referendum on your worth. If it's good enough, you're good enough. If it falls short, the verdict is personal. That's not a quality standard. That's a survival mechanism. And it's an exhausting way to create anything. The psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades studying what separates people who thrive from people who stall. And the line wasn't talent, or intelligence, or even discipline. It was whether they believed their abilities were fixed or growable. People who treat every output as a final judgment on their fixed ability, they protect it obsessively. They avoid challenge. They stop before they start. People who treat output as information, as a data point in a longer process of becoming, they release. They revise. They try again. The shift isn't about lowering your standards. It's about changing what the work is for. It's not evidence of who you are. It's a step in who you're becoming. Quiet beat. Let that land. And that reframe changes everything. Not because it makes the work less important, but because it removes the unbearable weight of finality from every single thing you make. You're allowed to make something good enough. Release it. Learn from it. Make the next one better. That's not settling. That's actually how this works. Here's what I want to say directly to the part of you that's been sitting on something. The thing you've been refining isn't going to become what it could be inside your head. It's going to become what it could be in the world, through contact, through response, through the resistance of reality pushing back against it. The version in your head is always better than anything you'll make. That's not a flaw. That's how imagination works. It's unbounded by physics, by skill limits, by the constraints of the actual. The gap between the vision and the execution is not evidence that you failed to execute well enough. It's just the gap. It exists for everyone, even the people whose work you most admire. The difference is they released anyway. They decided that the gap was acceptable, that an imperfect thing that exists is worth more than a perfect thing that doesn't. And something strange happens when you do that. When you finally let go of the thing that's been sitting in that protected space of almost ready. You feel at the moment it leaves your hands. Not relief exactly, something more complicated than that. A mix of exposure and freedom. The terrifying lightness of having made a real thing. And then, usually quietly, without fanfare, you find out that the world doesn't end. That the criticism, if it comes, is survivable. That the imperfection you feared was the thing that made it human. Made it relatable. Made it real. The perfect version would have been flawless. The real version connected. So here's what I want you to do today. Not this week. Today. Pick the thing that's been sitting. The draft, the project, the idea, the plan. And ask yourself one honest question. Is it actually not ready? Or is it that you're not ready to find out what happens when it is? Those are different problems. And only one of them gets solved by more refining. Set a deadline. Make it uncomfortable. 24 hours. 48. Give yourself a window that's too short for perfectionism to build a new case. And then release it. Imperfect. Real. Yours. You've been waiting for the version of yourself who's ready. That version is built by doing, not by waiting. If something in this one cut through, save it. Share it with someone who needed it too. See you in the next one.